say I'm quite happy about the results. We have had more than 200 researchers from all over the world coming here and present frontier research in all areas in economics.
So there are three things that I want to focus this talk on. The first is that it's not really possible to give an unconditional answer to the question of when the global crisis will end, because policy matters. And getting policy right is, I think, an extremely important component of the task we have in front of us. The new aspect of the policy that I'm thinking about is connected with the relationship between the stock market and economic activity. My view is that once we recognize that crises like this begin in the financial markets, we should also recognize that their solution is in the financial markets. And finally, I'm going to talk about the role of central banks up till now. Economic theory teaches us that price-earnings ratios, the value of the stock market relative to the dividends and earnings that the market is generating, should be roughly constant. In reality, price-earnings ratios are varied historically between 5 and 50. And those enormous fluctuations in price-earnings ratios have enormously bad effects on the real economy. I think that learning how to control those financial fluctuations as an alternative to traditional fiscal policy is the way to prevent this kind of crisis from affecting us so badly in the future.
How to manage the transition to normal interest rates. Now, interest rates worldwide are extremely low. They cannot be sustained at these levels forever. So how the transition is carried out may have an impact on the consolidation of the recovery or not. The Federal Reserve should be very careful in managing that transition. It may generate a potentially explosive situation in emerging economies. To some extent, the low interest rates in advanced economies have led to massive capital flows to emerging economies. Now, if interest rates are going to start going up in advanced economies, those capital flows may come to an end, and may come to an end very suddenly. That's what we call a sudden stops. Okay? So that may cause all kinds of problems in a part of the world which was working.
Central banks should have two objectives. One is economic stability, what typically understood as price stability, and the other is financial stability. And then for those two objectives, you need two instruments. So one instrument, well, is the interest rate that would be for economic stability or price stability. Second, we need a holistic approach to financial regulation. We need also uniform regulatory standards for all institutions that work like banks, independently whether they are called banks or not. We need also to implement resolution mechanisms for institutions, for financial institutions, so that everyone understands, so that banks can fail, okay, so, that maintain market discipline and stability at the same time. And finally, last but not least, we should develop mechanisms to make sure that supervisors and regulators intervene when they have to intervene to avoid the Japanese problem, which is not only Japanese, with all the problems and with all the banks that then developed into zombie institutions, which cannot lend because they have a balance sheet problem, and really they are not resolved or neither well capitalized. No?